everybody else's work, and then they're like, oh, that
Oh,
must
yeah,
be
yeah, I
true.
know who really was. Oh,
That's
yes.
Verifying.
He's not very,
Yes,
Sam Murray?
He's
No.
very,
You know, I mean, unless I
oh,
go
yeah,
through
I've been,
Dean's
I've been down there
site,
with our
website and
cable.
see.
at the reenactments when I-
Exactly, but again, he may not
Oh,
have
very
met
good. Oh,
Jesse
he knows
there
it. He
because
knows it's
Mary,
history.
my last name might have been Dean's, but he didn't. Anyway, it's
He's
really,
always made out direct lines.
He knows
Maybe
his-
not.
he's,
No, I doubt if he's
Scary.
at the.
Yeah.
yeah,
Plus you can't.
I know, that's what I mean, and then it's all of them, and then you really can't do anything.
Yeah, I know,
Without, messing them up a little bit.
oh, yeah,
You don't do them the right way.
Like Kingston
So,
was like.
I think it'd be awesome if you could find somebody nice who
outposts to
actually
Trenton.
are from
You know,
here.
like you have an outpost.
But again, you know, they could have
The
been
enemy's
with
coming
Somerset
in or
militia,
something,
they
but
could have been
I
with
call it
the
an
Skelly
outpost.
militia.
An outpost.
And, you know, again, if they didn't have a pension,
Yeah.
and then as far as Continental Army, it's just a nightmare. Ever since they moved everything
Oh,
from
yeah.
Washington
Well,
Cross
you
to
have
PA,
Yeah,
my access is completely limited.
yeah, I grew up in Dumont.
Where did they move it to?
That's the David.
Oh, yeah.
David Light, oh my
Right up-
God, I miss it so bad. They moved things all over the place. Now you have to go to, say, the
No,
archives.
but down here it's something.
I hate going, trying to go to the archives.
Troy Cool.
Stuff online, gold, great, but my thing is, I like looking at gold muster roll, because then you get to see, like, who else is there at the same time.
House over here.
And so we look at things in isolation, you can see what else is there. And the DAR is doing a project where they're doing all that. I have to drop out of doing that.
Make a lot, you just check on my
Just to start up.
In a 24-hour period, the score is 80-17.
But yeah, yeah.
No, that's good.
The
No,
state
I'm glad you're
I
interested.
anticipated.
There's so much, and the two
I've
fifties is
done
coming up,
6
so.
estates.
That's-
Still in that house
So
is
at the
just
museum, we're working on that. We have our people.
big
working on
learning
that.
curve.
Yeah.
This would be 27.
So-
That's a great tool,
You know what?
That's one
That's
thing.
a really,
Yeah.
really good estate agent. Here, done really good company to clean the house out. That took all the stuff out of the house. And I found another company who cleaned up.
Yeah, or at least come up with the idea for it.
My friend is 91, 6 weeks ago, she fell over right, and she.
That wouldn't have gotten them where you needed to go.
Yeah, I'm actually, I thought it the other day.
I remember.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Well, we-
And
From the back, you know, like the back, and all the other places.
Rotary local, well, once in East Brunswick, that's my mom.
Okay,
They're
this is up in Edison.
These guys
Yeah.
are fantastic. Really
Those guys.
He is very lucky to find these guys.
Yeah.
And the price was could have been, they could have really gotten me, they really did.
Farmers calling down there.
Good job at fair pricing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the price is good. And he was,
Oh, no,
No
it's
man's
good.
land.
It's good.
And,
Yeah, you know,
Feel like the
you know, we
the
have
pricing
stuff
wasn't
out
bad
there.
considering what was in that house 5 years ago.
From Brunswick to Trenton. Woods.
Probably more.
And there were
Find it.
people who used Indians as guides. And what the Indians would do would take them and get them lost in the trap. And then they had to
I'm redoing
pay
my
money
kitchen.
to get, find the right way back. There were a lot of shenanigans going on.
I just,
I got
I have worried, still worried about just the parents.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm responsible for that. Yeah.
One floor, well, once you get upstairs, you've got one floor. Two bedroom.
4 guys there, 2 solid days.
There was a lot of that.
No way they could have done that. No way.
Well, the Higgins family.
And how many rooms did you have to clean out?
Indians.
A full basement.
Yeah. Proprietors.
Oh, yeah, we're.
There's a lot. They were there since they got married.
Indians were selling the land.
Yeah, we're the only active one.
And then hunting and doing anything with land anyway. After they
Civil War,
paid
the
off
empty entire house.
There were
Another
Higgins
relative years
trees,
ago, they all brought everything there.
There's a building up in
You're
Brunswick.
right.
Pictures.
Okay, you want to start? Okay, it's just one more
It's just a
person.
building, so what do you?
Um,
yeah.
Tonight we're talking about how George Washington actually slept here. It's said a lot of times throughout New Jersey, but he did. It was documented in 2002 by Hunter Research, and we'll be talking about how he came through here in the road that led to from all the way up from Valley Forge to here. So let's take it away, Ed.
Okay, thank you, Randy. I want to welcome everybody who showed up, brave and courageous and bold. It's great that you're here. What we're going to do is show you some visuals that go along with my talk to make this thing come alive. And I decided just to spice it up, and we didn't rehearse this, but I have 3 tricorns here, and under each tricorn is the correct answer to errors that I will make in the talk. And those who are very perceptive, and as I look around, I see some very perceptive people, they will be able to pick out the errors that I make in my talk, and then you're eligible to win a prize.
Oh, Mom.
Okay, so we'll see how it goes. We're going to go back to how this thing all started, and that's with the British in Philadelphia as of September 26, 1777.
So we'll start with Philly. Okay, there we go.
Okay, these are introductory pictures. This is Washington at the Battle of Monmouth. The interesting thing about this picture, and I'll mention it in the notes, he receives as a gift a white horse, but the artist here has put him on a roan horse, or a brown horse. And I'm not sure which one is accurate, but I have a feeling that if somebody gives Washington, who's an accomplished horse rider, a new horse, he's not going to go into battle on a new horse. He's going to go into one of his favorite horses.
And what was this horse's name?
I found 3. One is Prescott, one is Jackson, and there's another one too, and it'll come along as I talk about it. So I don't know if that's Prescott or Jackson, but I tend to doubt it because he had a desire to ride a white horse, and he collected white horses. He had a few of them, but for the battle, he would have to take a trusty steed that wouldn't panic and would be accustomed to him and his moves. So I'm assuming that the artist is correct in portraying the horse. Okay, go ahead, Rand.
And this is just the graphic of, their path.
Yeah, these areas I will talk about. This just gives you an overview of the British coming up from Philadelphia and Washington leaving Valley Forge and coming across to New Jersey.
Okay, and Philadelphia is where we are now.
Okay. Now, the British are in Philadelphia as of September 26, 1777. George Washington did not succeed in ousting the British from Philadelphia for the rest of 77, wintered in Valley Forge, which was 40 miles away from Philadelphia, and it was a rough winter. Meanwhile, the British in Philadelphia were having a merry old time. Then what happens is France acknowledges U.S. independence, and they promise military aid to the new country. So you can move on, Randy.
Okay. And here we are. Valley.
Okay, there's Valley Forge, not in the winter. But the person I believe playing Washington doesn't look too happy. He was very frustrated with the British in Philadelphia and had suffered some setbacks in trying to catch their attention. It didn't work. Okay.
And who we have now is Howe. Lord Howe.
Okay, now Lord Howe is in charge in Philadelphia. He is replaced by Henry Clinton. So Lord Howe is ushered back to England, and Henry Clinton is in charge in Philadelphia. Now, you have to keep in mind that the British are a little nervous because the French are now full support of the Americans. And the British are out of place. They're in the interior with Philadelphia, and they need to be in New York. That would be their home base, and that would be facing the Atlantic Ocean. And the French, we know, had a strong navy, and so that was a key threat. Therefore, Clinton is trying to figure out the best way to get the troops, the regulars, from Philadelphia back to New York. Now, the logical way for him to do that would be to get on ships as they came into Philadelphia, come around and around Jersey, go up and get back to New York. But the problem is there's not enough ships for the number of people they have to get back, because now they're dealing with a whole mess of loyalists from the area who want to get out of the area because things are hot and heavy. So he's got to take care of them. He has the Hessian troops with him, left over from the battles at Trenton. And therefore, he has a large group that he has to get back. They're running out of time. So he has to decide which way he's going to go. Obviously, if we're talking about the Battle of Monmouth, we know which way he took. He has to come across New Jersey by land and forget about the boat situation. Now, Washington, through his spies and so forth, learns that Clinton is not going to go by ship and evacuate Philadelphia. He's going to come across New Jersey. The problem that Washington has is which path is Clinton going to take, and what
Is there a volume on the side here? On this phone, Marion, your volume?
Yeah,
Where is it? Which one?
I don't know.
That's,
How do you make it louder?
The higher thing on the left.
that's one of the handicapped British spies.
Yeah.
Spying on it.
Let me see if I can mute this person. Hold on.
Should I pause, Randy?
I'm almost there. I can recognize the voice, so as soon as I find it, I can mute it.
George did not have to deal with all this technology.
Actually, I don't
He
see
didn't
it.
have this problem.
So I think you're gonna have to soldier on, Ed, because we can ask him to mute, but if everyone can mute, please, that would be great.
Good point. Okay. So, George Washington learns of the plan of the British moving out of Philadelphia. And his initial plan is he must disrupt this British force coming across to New Jersey. Question is, how is he going to do it? But at least he has an idea of what he's going to do. He sends Brigadier General William Irish Willie Maxwell of the New Jersey Brigade back to New Jersey. Do you have a picture of him, Randy?
No,
Maxwell?
the next one I have is the French warship.
Oh, okay, well, okay, we've
who
already
is it? Who are
mentioned
you looking
that.
for again?
What's that?
Who is the person?
This is Irish Willie Maxwell,
No,
General
I
William
don't have him,
Maxwell.
no.
Okay,
That piano?
Mhm.
Whatever that one?
It was a test.
okay, every once in a while. we
So
have
do you
to
want to
see
be
that.
on the warships? Is that where you should be?
Well, we're finished with that.
Okay.
Okay, there's Sir Henry Clinton. He's the one who's going to lead the British through New Jersey. He's a excellent military strategist, but he's a slow-paced military strategist, and that's going to be a key.
Okay, next up I have a picture of New York City.
And that would be one of his goals, or that would be his ultimate goal. The question is, which path is he going to take to get to New York City?
And next up is
Okay,
Maxwell.
there's William Maxwell.
There he is. Sorry.
Now, he's going to be sent early back into New Jersey. He is going to be joined by Brigadier General Philemon Dickinson of the New Jersey Militia. And do you have a picture of him? Okay. Now, these two combined are going to be the first people to harass the British line. The British line through New Jersey is 12 miles long. It consists of Hessians that Clinton is going to put in the front when the harassment is like in the middle of that. And the best
I don't think
pictures
she
are gonna
has it.
be rear of the line. Okay, there is going to be the camp followers. That's a large number. There's going to be a larger number of loyalists, both the fighting loyalists, okay, and also the civilian loyalists, their families. And you can imagine the number of wagons and equipment that has to be hauled across New Jersey. This is like an impossible task. But Clinton believes he's up to it. But the problem is they're moving very slowly through New Jersey. So to harass them is really inviting. But Dickinson and Maxwell are the first ones to do that type of thing. Now, there's also a General William Wins. He's in charge of various county militias, and he's in charge of the Middlesex militia. Most of the guys who fought in this Battle of Monmouth actually did their fighting before the battle in harassing the British. And there's a number of them, and I'll read off their names at the end of my talk. So they're not, the people from South Brunswick are not marching with Washington coming out of Valley Forge. These are people that basically are already in New Jersey, and they're waiting for orders as to what. Okay,
Eva,
that's enough.
I can't put you on speaker. I don't know why. Let me call you back, okay?
I don't know.
Okay, bye.
If everybody could mute out in the audience, that'd be great. So we don't have to hear the background. Thank you very much. So next we have the house in Cranberry, Ed.
Okay,
The one that was Haddonfield Guardhouse.
So
yeah.
you talk also about this.
You can show that.
Hi, I was thinking and talking to Paul about Remy. I just wanna,
Randy, go back.
I mean, I don't know if there's reason for alarm, probably there isn't. But maybe if this is the second time it's happened,
Look like.
maybe she should
Wait a minute.
check out what the cause could be, like with an ultrasound or something.
Please put yourself on
Yeah,
mute
I mean-
because you're overtaking the speaker.
Maybe, I mean, for the
Please.
first day today, she texted and
You can
said.
put it on your end.
You can mute everybody on your end.
Much better.
Here, I can do it for
Well,
you.
that's good, because if it was a blood clot, it wouldn't be better. I was reading about it, it would continue to ache, it doesn't stop, so I guess it's not, it's just that I mean, to have such severe pain, you know?
I know, it was very worrisome to me, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
So if you click participants
Oh,
and then mute all.
Okay, so it's, all right. Let me,
Okay.
So protect time, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you.
okay, the reason I wanted to go back to this, the artist rendering here of militiamen, I don't think is correct. These
They wouldn't be dressed like
uniforms
that.
are like the best, the ideal uniforms for Washington's elite soldiers. The militiamen tended to be in buckskin or farm clothes, that sort of thing, had their own muskets, provided their own shot, that so forth. So these guys are overdressed for militiamen. Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Okay, the next one is, yeah.
Okay, now, Clinton crosses the Delaware River, June 16th to 18th. So it takes that long for him to get that line across the river at Gloucester. And this 12-mile column, I told you the people that are involved in it. First, they go through Haddonfield. Okay. Go ahead, Randy.
Okay,
Then they go through Mount Holly. And you're looking at colonial buildings that would have been around at the time.
okay, Crossways is that, Chesterfield, I mean.
Crosswicks. And Allentown. You know, the road sort of wraps around that building is still standing. Commercial things in there and so on. There used to be a restaurant. I don't know if there's a restaurant in there now.
Is it the Heidelberg?
that was a mill house thing, the creek is right behind it there. Okay, so he reaches Allentown on the 24th. Now, if you can imagine, looking at your map and so forth, if you go from Gloucester on the 18th, then you're talking about 6 days to get from Gloucester to Allentown. And this will give you an idea of how slow this line is moving. Okay, and the problem for Washington is, as Clinton is moving that way, where is he going to end up in New Jersey? In other words, what's his goal up to the end of New Jersey before he tries for New York? Is he going to New Brunswick? Is he going to South Amboy, which at that time was called Radford's Landing? Is he going to Sandy Hook? Washington doesn't know. Now, the interesting thing about him and his other generals thinking about New Brunswick is Clinton is taking what's called the Lower Road, also called Lowry's Road, and different names in different sections of it. But if Clinton is going to New Brunswick, guess where he would have to go through? What would be one of the main routes to get up to the upper road to get into New Brunswick? He'd have to take, after Cranberry, take George's Road, and he'd go right through Crossroads, called Dayton now, and take George's Road on into New Brunswick. Wouldn't it have been interesting if the battle had not been the Battle of Monmouth, but the Battle of Crossroads? And that was a possibility in the thinking at the time, as Clinton was making his move across New Jersey. And then we could be boasting better than the people down in Princeton boast about their Battle of Princeton. We could be boasting about our battle, but it's not going to work out that way. Okay, on the 20th, heavy rains are delaying George Washington's crossing of the Delaware River. Meanwhile, Maxwell, Dickinson, and Winds are harassing the British train, which is going, of course, on bad roads in hot, humid weather. So conditions for this march are really bad, and they're going to get worse when the rains come. Now, what were the militiamen up to? And these would be the guys from South Brunswick who were participating in this. Destroy bridges, culverts, fill in wells so they couldn't be used, fell trees across roads, all sorts of things to delay and hamper the progress of the British. On Sunday, June 21st, George Washington crosses the Delaware River at Corrials Ferry. You got that, Randy?
No.
Okay, there we go. Now, Corrials Ferry, of course, you know, is New Hope, and on the other side would be Lambertville. So he's crossing there. He sends Colonel Daniel Morgan's rifles ahead to support Maxwell and Dickinson. Now, what's the great advantage of riflemen in those days? They are the best shots in the war. They're better shots than anybody the British have, okay? The problem with riflemen is it takes longer to load a rifle than it does a musket. But the riflemen that he sends, when they're sober and they're obeying orders, they're very good. And the British are very fearful of them. So when they're being harassed by riflemen, they're really alarmed, okay? And it was an advantage that George Washington had them. But as I say, they were sort of rebellious type, and they were hard to control. And many times they did the opposite of what they were supposed to do. But they came through enough times that they were valuable. Okay, now Washington is going to take Georgetown Road, which you know of as 518. And you might find that on your map. The main American force is going to march on 518 to Hopewell. Do you have a picture for Hopewell?
Yeah, first I have Morgan.
Okay, yeah, you're sending Daniel Morgan with his riflemen.
Here's Hopewell.
There's a rifleman. Okay, now at Hopewell, George Washington learns that the that Clinton is not headed to New Brunswick, most likely, not headed, therefore, after New Brunswick, Perth Amboy or Elizabethtown. The British are probably headed either to South Amboy or Sandy Hook. So it's narrowing down as to where they're gonna go. Okay, now, interesting, on Wednesday, June 24th, George Washington is with his generals in Hopewell. And a thing that a lot of people don't know is that there was an eclipse of the sun.
Okay, hold on. I got that.
Okay, and we happened to find an eclipse of the sun. Our technology people are really advanced. Okay, and why is this an important event? To the generals in Washington having their meeting and so forth, the eclipse of the sun is not that big a deal. But to the average soldier, being very superstitious and knowing that their fate is in the hands of the fates, an eclipse is a real important deal. So the generals and the officers beneath them had to calm down the troops, maybe give them a little extra rum to settle their nerves, and make sure that they were along with the program, because this was very upsetting to a lot of the soldiers. Okay, so General Washington holds this generals meeting in Hopewell, and out of that meeting come 3 points of view. In other words, there are 3 possible strategies that the Americans can do. We have Major General Charles Lee.
Lee.
You have a, yes,
Yeah.
there we go. Now, Charles Lee, we know of as a flake. History tells us that he was a little different than the average type general, okay? And he was pretty sharp, knew his military strategy very well, but George Washington had a very difficult time with him. And Charles Lee, the label that's put on his idea is called the Bridge of Gold. And Charles Lee wants the Americans to be hands-off, let Clinton march through, get to where he wants to get to, and get over to New York, okay? He had some support. Lord Sterling somewhat supported it, and Henry Knox somewhat supported it. So you had some people there at the table who were in favor of Charles Lee's program. He wasn't alone on this. Major General Nathaniel Greene, there's Henry Knox, there's Nathaniel Greene, one of Washington's most loyal generals. He's in favor of engaging in a full-fledged battle with the British. He is supported by Brigadier General Anthony Wayne. Do you have a picture of him?
Yeah, he's next, yeah.
Okay. And there is a third point of view, and this is where General Lafayette, von Steuben, and Captain Hamilton support. And that is just keep harassing the British all the way to wherever they're going. So keep on doing what you're already doing, but don't necessarily aim for a major battle, okay? Now, Washington has a decision to make because after generals have given their point of view and so forth. This is one of the democratic things about George Washington that a lot of people don't emphasize. But he allowed his general, he may even have had an idea what he wanted to do, what he was going to do, but he allowed his generals to give input here, and then he made his decision, which in the long run was a wise decision to make. Because remember, there were several people who wanted Washington's position. So he was always on tenterhooks as far as that's concerned. He decided to risk no major engagement for the time being. So basically, what Lafayette was saying and von Steuben and Hamilton, he was going with that approach. All right. So we get down to Clinton on June 24th, makes a decision to take Monmouth Road. I'm not quite, okay, you go with Scott, that's all right. And he is definitely now planning to go to Sandy Hook. Now, why is Sandy Hook advantageous to him? First of all, it's out of the way and the farthest away from the enemy as far as them doing the harassing. And also, the ship's ability to get there to transport all these people to New York City is a possibility. Sandy Hook was known as a dumping area, smuggling area, and so forth back in the day. And so this became a good strategic target for Clinton to aim for. So again, Lower Road, Monmouth Road, he's going to Sandy Hook. This is at about the time where he strengthens the rear of his line, so coalescing his regulars at the end of the line, because that's where most of the harassment is going on. Put the Hessians, who were not as strong and dependable as the regulars, the British regulars, at the front of the line, and put all the civilians and the loyalists in the middle. Okay.
I have Cranberry up next. Does that work?
Yeah, let's see. Well, we got Charles Scott. So Washington sends General Charles Scott ahead with 1,500 people to enhance the harassment troops. So now we have a big, stronger force harassing the British as they go along. This is going to slow them down even more. Okay. So that harassment technique is working. Okay, now we get to Thursday, the 25th. This is a little known fact, but Clinton actually feigns a movement through East Brunswick as if he's going to head up to the upper road and go to New Brunswick. And so he's trying to throw George Washington off his game. So then Washington is thinking, well, gee, is he going to New Brunswick? Or maybe he's going South River to South Amboy. So that puts a monkey wrench in the planning. But he comes out of it, he keeps on the lower road, he passes through Cranberry, and he's headed on his way to Freehold and the Monmouth Courthouse, and you know what happens there. Okay, now, meanwhile, what is George Washington doing? George Washington passes through Rocky Hill on Thursday, June 25th.
Getting there.
Okay, and we see Rocky Hill there. This is not 1778, but it's close enough. Okay, he's got 6,000 plus troops with him. His line of march is a few miles long. He sends Brigadier General Anthony Wayne, Major General Lafayette, and Brigadier General Enoch Poor ahead with 1,000 men. And that also includes Captain Hamilton. Lafayette is put in command of the advanced forces because Lee refused to lead them. Now, Lee was not in favor of the harassment, and he wasn't in favor of a major battle. So he's a negative Nelly here, and George Washington is leery of putting him in charge anyway. So what George Washington does is put Lafayette in charge, and Lafayette gets all the way down to Cranberry. The British have already passed through there, and he go ahead, Randy.
What do you want? Which one do you want?
Well, I don't know what's next. You surprised me.
Well, the next one we have up is we have just Kingston, and after that is Grayson, Colonel William Grayson.
Okay, yeah, put Kingston on there.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Washington is headed after Rocky Hill to Kingston, while Lafayette is in Cranberry, and Lafayette is staying at Dr. Hezekiah Stite's house. He's a well-known doctor in New Jersey, and it's a logical place for the leaders to stay.
And there's actually this slide shows where it was. if you go into Cranberry, that plaque is there. That house is where it stood. So that's not the house that he stayed, but that's the spot where it was.
Right, and later on, Washington will stay there too, once he gets through South Brunswick. Okay, meanwhile, Hamilton is heading to Hightstown with a small force. He's joining Maxwell there. And what they're doing is enhancing and strengthening the harassment forces. The advanced troops that are with Hamilton and Lafayette stay in the woods at Cranberry Creek.
That's the one. That's
Okay, now you're going a little bit too
far.
fast.
Okay, so here we are.
Okay.
Hightstown.
Yeah,
Okay.
now some of the harassment forces are in Hightstown. So as you see, they're coming up the back of the British line. Okay, and they're getting stronger and stronger. They're harassing better and better. And they're trying to get themselves organized and on the same page. So there's a lot of chess piece movements here going on. Okay, now, on the evening of the 25th, George Washington is at Kingston. He sends Colonel William Grayson with a small force, and he changes his mind and puts Lee in charge of the overall command of the advanced forces. And they will head toward to Englishtown. The only ones not with Lee now would be Morgan and Dickinson. They were flanking the enemy on the north and south sides of the line, and that's where the South Brunswick militiamen are. They're harassing in those troops. Okay. While George Washington is in Kingston, the governor of New Jersey, Governor Livingston, gives Washington as a white horse. By the name of Avalon. And it's, I have my doubts that Washington used the horse in the march of the Battle of Monmouth. But historians tell us that he was gifted a white horse when he was in Kingston. This is where George Washington decides to take the high road, I'll put that in quotes, through South Brunswick, okay? And we know that if you look on your map, that's Ridge Road. And he decides to take the long way to get to Cranberry, because that's his goal. And you say, why? If all these advanced forces is over, we're cutting through down to Cranberry using the Mapleton, Plainsboro Road out of Kingston, how come Washington didn't use that? Because that would be the shortest way to get there. Now, remember the weather with the rain and all that stuff? Well, it turns out that road was a swampy road and it had many wet spots. And Washington did not want to chance his main forces being slogged down on that road. So he nixed that thing of going the quick way and he took the long way. Now, what's the advantage of taking Ridge Road? Well, the very name of the road gives it away. Ridge Road is right where the cutoff is for the Piedmont area of New Jersey, hilly, rolling, you know, like where you have Sand Hill and you have a Little Rocky Hill and that sort of thing. And then you have the intercoastal plain, which is east of that, okay? So that Ridge Road sort of goes along atop that, is dry. You only have to get across one creek on the whole thing, and that's the route that he took. Okay, now we get to the Longbridge Farm, Randy.
Nope, getting there. There we go.
Okay, Longbridge Farm. Now, this is the famous stop that George Washington and his troops make along Ridge Road. Longbridge Farm is the largest farm in the area other than John Wetherell's farm. And they say this was around 1,000 acres, took up most of Monmouth Junction. And there's very little evidence of the Longbridge Farm now, but we do have a lot of details about it. This was the home of Bay Richmond. And Bay Richmond was a famous stud horse on a Longbridge Farm. And Longbridge Farm was known for horse raising and providing stud service for farmers near and far. And during the Revolutionary War, the Americans had to hide Bay Richmond. And they would take Bay Richmond out of his stable at Longbridge Farm and hide him in some farmer's place where they hoped the British would not find this prize horse. Very valuable horse. Okay?
So Ed, what I have there, I don't know if you're gonna mention it, it talks about the name of it was taken from the bridge that went over Lawrence Brook. So
Right.
that's one thing I wanted to point out. So, and I don't know where that was, but 522 also goes over Lawrence Brook too. So
Yeah.
maybe the bridge was right there.
Well, you see there's a creek down there.
I get the idea, yeah.
Right, right. I don't think it was Lawrence because Lawrence was flowing the other way.
Okay,
But anyway, I told you there was one creek that they had to cross. That would be where the bridge is. Okay, anyway, Thomas Lawrence is the founder of Longbridge Farm. He was a mayor of Philadelphia. His son, John Lawrence, inherited the farm. But at this time, John was not at the farm. He was under house arrest when the British were in Philadelphia. He had been a mayor in Philadelphia too. When the British moved out of Philadelphia, then John Lawrence gets his freedom from house arrest. Anyway, running the farm in the absence of the Lawrences was Thomas Wetherill. And Thomas Wetherill is the son of George Wetherill, who was a brother of John Wetherill. Okay, so the Wetherills are involved in this whole Mishigosh too. Now, I have some quotes to prove that the soldiers were at Longbridge Farm, meaning that they had to take Ridge Road to get there. Because there are some historians who say that Washington went from Kingston to Cranberry, and they don't mention how he got there. And if they do hint at it, it's that fast road that I told you about that was swampy, and Washington didn't go that way. So we're here tonight to prove which way Washington went. And that's to our favor because he went right through Monmouth Junction to get over to Crossroad. Okay, here are the quotes. This is from Dr. Samuel Adams. After Kingston at dusk, it was cooler now. We marched again and halted about 12 at night at a place called Longbridge. James McHenry, an aide to George Washington. The main body of our army marches and then only to Lawrence's, 4 miles from Kingston. Private Greenman, his spelling is really bad, marched 5 miles and halted in a flax field at a place called Longbridge. Fourth one, Lieutenant Ebenezer Wild, halted in the road all night. At 5 o'clock on the 26th, we fell into our arms and were counted off in order to march. And the last one, George Washington in his papers, now they're headed to Crossroads. In George Washington's papers, I quote, to Thomas Wetherill, the morning after we left Kingston, $14. So George Washington paid Thomas Wetherill, who had the tavern. This is a picture of the Wines Hotel. And this is, of course, a later picture. But Thomas Wetherill ran a tavern across from what am I thinking of? The main tavern that's there now.
La Taverna.
Right, La Taverna that you know. You know where Wawa is? At the Five Corners? Well, that's where the tavern was, the Weatherhill Tavern. George Washington stops there, he makes his payment. Now I checked the payments of George Washington along the way from Coriolis Ferry to Cranberry. And the largest amount that he paid was to Thomas Weatherhill, which was $14. We don't know exactly what it paid for, but this would be for services rendered and so forth at the Longbridge Farm, because Thomas Weatherhill was running that, and that's why Washington paid him. Thomas Weatherhill was at the tavern at the time, and probably picked up a few things at the tavern, maybe liquid refreshment, who knows? But anyway, that's an interesting vignette. Okay, now he's going through Crossroads, so he's coming down George's Road now with his army. Then to George's Road, he's coming down to where the lower road would be a little bit, and then he gets on North Main Street. Now it's called North Main, right into Cranberry. So now Washington is in Cranberry. I don't know if you have anything on that next.
Let me see. What do we have up there? No, I have Freehold's next. So Cranberry was way back. I can go there, but it's quite a ways back. I have to
Okay,
jump around a little bit because I wanted to talk about, at some point, I want to talk about the bayonets that were found on the farm.
yeah, well, why don't you do that now, because
Okay.
we're in the area.
Okay, yeah, since we're here on Longbridge Farm, it was a longtime resident, Ruth Spataro. She's a Roland. They actually owned the property at one point. They had found in the 50s 2 bayonets, and they said that they were in there. There was an article about it in the home news back in about 20 years ago. So actually, bayonets were found there in 51. I don't know whose possession, who has them now. I think the last family that it was there when they found them was the Zimmermans, but they've since moved on. And the house is under, the house is being redone right now. The actual old farmhouse. I'll show you the picture. This is the house right on 600 Ridge, and that still stands today. This house was there during the time of when Washington was there. I mean, he didn't stay there, but this house, it's been altered quite a bit, even in this picture. This picture is quite old in itself. That's from the 70s. But yeah, that was there at the time of the plantation when Washington came through.
Right. That's being renovated now, so as you
Yeah.
drive by there, you'll see that work is going on.
The big curve. from the
Yep,
road.
it's right on the curve,
Right,
yeah.
right, where the road bends around. The thing is, on these plantations, there were several houses, but then there are some people in town that say, oh, that's the Longbridge Farm house. Very debatable. And I would say the manse is no longer standing. There might be a foundation somewhere, but that's about it. But I don't believe that that is the house that the Lawrences lived in. And they used it as a summer place. So it was a seasonal place for them, very wealthy family. And they were mainly oriented towards Philadelphia. To be out in the sticks in the South Ward, the old name for South Brunswick, this was just a lark. And but the farm was very profitable, very profitable. Okay. Okay, now on Friday the 26th, it's raining all day. Clinton has reached Freehold, and he's resting his troops, and they're gaining provisions. Dickinson, with 800 militia, is north and west of Freehold. Morgan, with 600 men, is south of Freehold. So this is the end of the harassment thing. Lee is headed to the west bank of the Weemacong Creek. This is with the main harassment force. George Washington completes his march through South Brunswick. He has his headquarters at Dr. Stice's house, as we mentioned before, in Cranberry. His men and the horses are exhausted, and he gives this as a day of rest. On Saturday, June 27th, George Washington moves the main force to the Penolapan Bridge across the Manalapan Brook. Now he is 3 miles west of Englishtown. His soldiers camp on both sides of the bridge, waiting. George Washington rides to Lee's camp, which is now at Englishtown, and he orders Lee to attack the rear of the British on the morning of June 28th. So Washington has come around to the idea of a major confrontation. And Clinton is ready. And then you have the Battle of Monmouth. End of story from my perspective.
And then we have the names up here of some of the
Oh.
locals, and you could recognize some of those names even today, like Bastido, and they're still around. There's some kind of Griggs
Eventually.
and then Perrine.
Where do we have?
Jerome?
I got it from Ed. I can give it to you. I mean, it's right there.
Every single name on there is of a founding family of South Brunswick. There were other militiamen, but not confirmed. This is a list of confirmed,
I'll send you that slide.
either from their pension applications or from documentation of people taking diary notes or whatever the case may be. So this leaves you with an idea of the participation of South Brunswick people in the lead up to the Battle of Monmouth. And some of the people actually participated in the battle itself. I have the officers, Randy didn't have the room to put them down, but the officers that these guys fought under, they didn't all fight under one thing. So this wasn't one unit. You got to keep in mind with militiamen, a lot of them fought just a month. Then they were off, maybe for harvesting or for planting or whatever the case may be. Then they were back on again. So it's very hard to keep track of these people and find out exactly what they did. But this gives you an iron-bound list of the ones who definitely were involved at this time. Okay?
Take questions.
And now we're open to questions
Oh, okay.
and also answers, because I made 3 mistakes
Why is
while I was lecturing.
Oriole Sperry in June?
What?
Oriole Sperry, they crossed the Orioles in June?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So you had to get there because the battle was in June.
Why?
Oh, no, I was
Oh,
just
you
wondering.
thought that was a mistake?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because he crossed.
No, I didn't leave any mistake there.
Okay,
Didn't leave any mistake
and I
there.
don't think Washington was doing on a white horse in the middle of that.
Okay. But you can be asking questions and then we'll finally get to along the way, we can get to the mistakes that I made. Okay, does anybody have a
How
question?
about out there? Anybody in the Zoom audience have a question? You can unmute and ask. Oh, now they're quiet.
Now they're quiet.
I got a question.
Yeah,
Now, Red Bank wouldn't have been too far from the Monmouth courthouse.
Right.
Red Bank was a major
Right.
port at that time. Why wouldn't you have used Red Bank?
well, I differ with you as far as being a major port then. Probably your 2 major landing areas would be Sandy Hook and South Amboy. Those would be your 2 major areas. The advantage of South Amboy is you can ferry across to Perth Amboy, or you can ferry right to Staten Island.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why Washington thought that Clinton may go that way. The thing about Sandy Hook was it was in British control. They already controlled it, and they controlled the traffic that was going across to there. And they were using that as a provision loading thing. In other words, provisions were coming in already. So it was sort of a no-brainer that Clinton would aim that way. It was a little bit longer than the other 2 possibilities, but that's what it boiled down to. In other words, when Clinton made up his mind, he stuck to his plan. And when Washington made up his mind, he didn't necessarily stick to that. He might have adjusted. He might have altered things. And as we see along this thing, we start out with, okay, we'll just pester them, we'll harass them. Okay, well, things are heating up. Okay, we'll have a major battle. It was that type of thing. And the stakes were huge. If Washington and his forces had won the Battle of Monmouth, and defeated and captured many of the British soldiers, so a war might have ended right there. General Lee sort of messed things up. Okay, however, if Washington and his forces were defeated by Clinton, that might have ended the Revolutionary War. So there was a lot at stake for this battle. And that's why it's a very important battle in the war, because of the way it could have gone. Some historians say it was a stalemate. There are some historians who say it was a victory for the Americans.
That's the British
Yeah, and the British, their interpretation of it was either a stalemate or to our advantage because we got away. So it all depends on who you read and who you believe.
There's somebody from the audience said that the owners of the Cranberry Inn used to say that Lafayette's troops camped on their property prior to the Battle of Monmouth. Is there any record of this?
Yes, well, I had them by the woods, Cranberry Creek, and that's roughly the area where the.
So that's true. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There's a plaque in Cranberry.
Yeah. See, the high officers would be guests in some highfalutin person's house. The common soldiers would be camping out somewhere. And the kicker is Washington ordered the troops to leave their tents in Kingston. So when they marched through South Brunswick and they got to Cranberry, they didn't have tents.
Oh,
And imagine, you know what the weather was. And those soldiers were, you got to hand it to them. I mean, they went through hell just to get to the battle. And we, we sit here, we're comfortable and all that, but it was unbelievable back then.
It's supposed to be really humid, right? It was really humid.
Humid,
very
hot.
extremely hot. Right?
Yeah, and when I went to the reenactment of the Battle of Monmouth, they had the British soldiers there with their woolen uniforms on. And we were having a picnic thing there, right? And as British soldiers came over and they're sitting there and they're sweating bullets.
oh, yeah.
And that was just the reenactment.
They actually said that some of the British soldiers that actually died at the battle, more of them died from.
Yeah.
Because they weren't,
Oh, yeah.
because they weren't acclimated.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I learned they couldn't get cotton or anything because of the
It
cargo.
was rough.
I was talking to some of the old, I was talking to reenactors at Pennsylvania Plantation, that some of the guys couldn't get cotton and silks and things like that because France and
Oh, okay.
England, they couldn't get the lighter.
So there was no
Lighter
cotton.
materials.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, does anybody want to take a stab at the errors I made?
You're so convincing.
No, it sounded.
Oh, I was a good salesman?
You certainly were.
Well, a lot of us are not steeped in the details of it.
Yes, there I had an advantage over.
Yes.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Well, let me give you some hints because I got giveaways here. So, and you came a long distance to get here. As I look through my notes, I got to go back to the beginning. Let's turn these over. Wait a minute, what do we got? I'll probably get these all messed up and out of order. Okay.
Question.
Yeah.
Or a statement. A lot of these, from where I came from,
Right.
And we had people that talked about the paintings people see
Right,
of the battles.
right.
No way did it happen this way.
No, because, well, see, the painter tries to include all the big wigs in one shot.
Yeah, I know.
They did this at Battle of Princeton.
I didn't
They
think of that.
editorialized so
Yeah,
that they
well,
could
yeah,
concentrate and
right,
make it very
Yeah, I
interesting.
didn't find that out. till
Yeah,
about
it's
10
a
years ago.
romantic notion. Never trust a painter.
Yeah.
Never trust a painter.
Wait, now we
I
say.
take issue with that.
There's a question. You want to do that first and then take the question?
No, we'll take the question, sure.
The question is, they say, can you talk about the War Council in preparation for the Battle of Monmouth at the farmhouse on Route 518 in Skillman? It still stands.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
I just want to ask if you could elaborate on that.
In what way? I mean, I gave a lot of detail.
Talk about the war council in preparation. I don't know. It's just a question up there.
Who was that?
Do you have a roster?
There was a
Well,
picture.
yeah, I gave the sides, I gave the 3 points of view. There's not much more I can say.
Okay.
George Washington allowed his generals to have input. He didn't just come in like a dictator and say, this is what we're gonna do, boys. Go ahead and address the troops and get everybody ready. He didn't do that.
Okay.
And as it turned out, he was favoring, in the beginning, not going into a major battle. Okay, and then as he went along, he changed his mind. It's crucial that a council meeting, it's very similar to the council on horseback at Kingston, when Washington was leaving the Battle of Princeton and deciding where he was going to go. And there were several generals who said, let's march to New Brunswick and take the war chest that's there in Brunswick. And then there were guys who said, let's stop and fight in a major battle against Cornwallis. And there was a group that said, no, we got to get out of here. We can't afford another battle. And so Washington took all this in. They headed to the west and north and ended up in Morristown.
But
So the council is a very important strategic point that Washington always utilized. And in a sense, that differentiated him from several generals. Clinton wouldn't be doing that.
no.
Clinton would be saying, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way the king wants me to do it, and this is the way I'm going to do it.
British arrogance.
Yeah, right. And stubborn about it too.
Well, if you know, I mean, if you look at you look at the Battle of Princeton, and then you look at the Battle of Monmouth Courthouse, that both things have similarities in that they attack end of the line, the beginning of the line. I think Washington's primary motive was to he couldn't keep the British out of North Jersey. He couldn't.
Right.
But he could keep them out of Central Jersey, leading to Philadelphia.
Right.
And if you think about it, by attacking the end of the troops, by attacking the end of the line, he's forcing them forward. He's forcing them back into the north.
Right.
So now Washington has the full run of Central Jersey from New Brunswick down.
Right.
And you also can reoccupy Philadelphia because the British don't have any troops down there.
Right.
There's a big gap in there because the Cornwallis is down in the Carolinas.
Right.
So you have a big gap in between the two.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that Washington lost more battles than he won. But the strategy was, you can lose the battles, but don't lose the war. And a strategy of tiring out the British. And when the French come in, that changes the ballgame. So Washington was relying on a strategy of survival rather than conquer. And the further inland the British went, the more mistakes they made.
Washington was the first general who used guerrilla warfare.
So that's what they say. Of course, the Native Americans were using it
Better than
hundreds of years
yes,
before
they taught
Washington.
us well.
Yeah.
They taught us well. But
Okay, let me get to this contest here and I'll be finished.
Sorry, guerrilla warfare was used in Southeast Asia for thousands of years.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So like, Washington's only credited to bring it to the US, but he's not credited to be the
Right.
founder.
Yeah, well, like I say, the Native Americans.
Native Americans were great at it.
But
Yeah,
he
yeah.
perfected it. He actually had a strategy for it, which was different from what the Asians had done because this was
Yeah.
haphazard.
And
In actuality, if you look at the Ho Chi Minh during Vietnam, he used the same tactic. What he said right from the start was, I know we can't beat the Americans, but I make this war last long
war of
enough.
attrition, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
then the
exactly.
Americans will leave.
Yeah.
And we did.
Okay, British General William Maxwell. I called him Irish Willie. What was his nickname?
Doubt? I don't know.
That was my first mistake.
Oh, okay.
Who knows?
Okay, Scotch Willie. That was his nickname. Okay, now let's see, we move right
Very
along.
minute. I just,
Nothing.
Okay, next one, I referred to, Captain Alexander Hamilton. Correct. He was a colonel by the time of the Battle of Monmouth. Okay, so you win a prize. You have your choice. Okay, and the third one had to do with the horse given to General Washington by Governor Livingston.
For a second.
I named the horse Avalon. I don't know the name of the horse. I just made it up.
It's not.
I thought-
I thought it was like, okay.
I thought you mentioned something the other day though about the supposed.
Yeah, but I didn't mention the name of the horse.
Ah,
I just mentioned that.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I don't have any documentation that he actually got a horse when he was in Kingston.
Okay.
So that's an error on my part. So we do have a winner,
yay.
and you have a choice of those from those three chap booklets. Okay. Two are about Revolutionary War, and one is about the 17 places of historical importance in South Brunswick.
Like that.
You'd like that? Okay.
Give us things to visit.
There you
And
go.
you mentioned the democracy. When I researched for Mary Catherine Goddard, democracy, we throw the word around, July 4th, it's just part of our linguistics
Oh,
from a
yeah,
young kid.
Yeah.
To know that we were coming out of serfdom and mannerism. Coins were just coming out and some of the serfs are buying their way. That's how they came to the colonies. The coffee houses are evolving in terms of the discussion of what democracy is as a philosophy. Then pamphlets are being printed, particularly in the colonies, and
Right.
being shared. So to have Washington really putting democracy into action with his council really takes the root of it to the action part in an incredible way.
Yeah. And he's precedent setting in that when you see presidents of today and they're surrounded by these advisors and they're surrounded by people in the cabinet and so forth like that. Well, that idea can be traced back right to the beginning. So I like to emphasize it. And I don't think it's emphasized enough. And in this day and age, a lot of the founding fathers are getting a bad name. And deservedly so as far as slavery is concerned, and et cetera, et cetera. But still in all, on the scale, you have to weigh the positive points with the negative points. And I think one of the positive points about Washington was he was a Democratic general.
Nice and how we use the same place.
Mike, yeah.
There's two things I'd like to close up with. First is think about this when Washington came through with his troops when you go to Wawa and get your coffee. That's first of all, because all the time. And the second is John O'Sullivan from the Old Barracks Museum in Trenton is here, and he'd like to talk about the things they have down there and the programs they have. And Tavern Night coming up in October.
Okay, thank you very much, folks. My name is John O'Sullivan. I'm a resident of Monmouth Junction in town. I am also now the treasurer of the Old Barracks Association. I was past president for 7 years. Okay, I told them I'll keep it short and brief. Down in the Old Barracks, we've been there for a long time. We're wide open now because COVID's over. And we're getting money from the state and we're doing a lot of good things. Some points I want to bring up that I want people to come down and see is we have George Washington's wallet. We've had a check and we have the Providence, that's the background, the history. And you can come down there and see this. Last year, I happened to be down walking around, but I heard about a letter coming in that was signed by George Washington and sent to one of the people fighting for us in the Revolutionary War. Except we got this letter from a man in California.
Hey, you got it.
Hey, we got it. So that's down there to see. And I was there today, they got it and watching it open up and everything.
That's so cool.
And then you look down and George Washington. I think it's June, but I saw 1777 on it, you know. Wow.
Mhm.
Yes, like, this is something to see. And then also we have powder horns, that's, everybody's seen that from Davy Crockett and all this like that. They had them back then too, powder horns and the clothes. And for the ladies, the china, the fine china that they had down there back then in that time for the, because Trenton was a center of commerce and people wanted to live there, experience. So with the 250th anniversary coming up in the United States, please spread the word to come down and see the old barracks. And of course, the State Museum, and we're right next to the state capitol. So come down and learn about New Jersey.
And Tavern Night is a really unique experience.
Yeah.
Because you can go after hours, you can go, it's nighttime, it's lit by, they have like torches out there.
That's right.
You can have
I
a drink,
I
and
missed
have
it.
history all at the same
Yeah,
time.
I have a funny story on that, so I'm going over 2 minutes. So, I was walking around talking to people, pushing the product, as we say. And so some lady says to me, "Oh, it's John, there's no electric lights here."
Oh, jeez.
And it stopped me, like, ma'am, this is like what it used to be back in late 1770s. And they didn't have electric lights.
Yeah.
So
Not quite.
it
Yeah.
makes them,
Yeah.
think. But thank you for bringing it up.
It's a really fun event.
Yeah, it is.
Some
It's a-
dates.
John, how's the
Some dates.
parking?
Oh, don't get me going on this.
Okay, well,
Oh,
But it's a wonderful place, though. I was at your tea. I went to your
the tea, yes,
I was
very
at your
good.
tea.
It was, as treasurer, I could say, it was very profitable.
that's a good
Yes.
thing.
But it's unbelievable. The
meaning
parking.
good or?
No, it's. Okay. The state. I'll give you an update. The state. Is on a kick to improve the security of the Capitol. Okay. That took away a lot of parking.
Yes, it did.
Okay, took away a lot of parking. So parking is hard down there. We are working with the state police is responsible for the area. And whenever we have big events, the state police is gonna work with us, so
That's good.
their parking lots there will be open for that time of the functions. But when it comes to like every day, forget about it.
That's so silly.
But for the, what's coming up or big functions.
For
we'll have-
special events. it's
Yeah,
cool
well,
to do
they-
that.
we're already sitting down with the state police and think, okay, I am handicapped, okay? I park in the hotel like 2 full blocks away and walk over. Okay, now that is not right, okay? Because handicap parking should be
Right.
close,
Right.
There's no handicap parking for about 2 blocks from the barracks. And we are, I have to behave because I might be overheard. I can't really say what I want to say, but we're working with the state to try to figure this out. Because you can't have handicapped people walking 2 blocks
No,
or
absolutely.
being pushed in wheelchairs to go see this. But that's all right, came to like a compromise for big events. We're working with the state police now to get this all squared away. We even said we will pay the state police to make sure it's open, because we don't want this problem that everybody's saying, rah rah for the 250th, and you come down here and
No parking.
and there's no parking. So why have, so, but it's being worked on.
So who uses that big parking lot next door? I mean, who's in there?
Okay, they redid the new.
Right,
sort of.
I saw that.
Okay, that's gonna be used for the powers to be in the Capitol.
John, can you give us some dates to highlight some things?
Well, in
And a source
September, In September.
And where can we go for information?
Oldbarracks.org.
Yeah, here's my card. If anybody wants the card to reach me.
Please.
Yeah, here's the
Yeah,
card.
here's Oldbarracks.org or something. Yeah, you can pass it over.
Slide on over.
Thank you. Yeah, so you can have it.
You're welcome.
So I guess that'll wrap this up. So thank you
the
for,
time.
yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and thanks for coming out to find out about Washington here in South Brunswick. And good night, all.
Here's the number of the people who I use. I think the Express Clean, I can't remember if that's the right number.
Hey, thanks.
Can look it up.